Hello, everyone. I'm Minister Marvin Fant, and today we're going to be talking about the overlooked subject of comparing yourselves to one another. Now, we do it all the time. Sometimes we may not even be aware of it, but it seems like it's an ongoing progress, an ongoing situation. And I never thought about this before, especially coming from the Bible. But now that I've read into it, it makes sense. And let me delve into this. Go to 2 Corinthians uh, chapter 2, verse 12. And what I'm going to do is read from the NIV first and then go to the King James just to give you a little comparison, okay? In the NIV, it says, "We do not dare to classify or compare ourselves with some who commend themselves. When they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves, they are not wise." And then in the King James, it says, "We dare not make ourselves of the number or compare ourselves with some that commend themselves, but they measuring themselves by themselves and comparing themselves among themselves are not wise." So, not too much of a variation there, but the main thing is this is talking about for us, the believer, the Christian, not to compare ourselves with other people. Because all in all, God is telling us and showing us that we are unique, that we are fine tuned and structured by Him, that we shouldn't look toward other people. There's a saying that you don't judge a book by its cover. But yet, as I said, we do it all the time because we like to compare ourselves. And we grow up thinking our worth is measured next to someone else. I recall like playing baseball or basketball. Now, we like to compare how we play or our game next to someone else. And to a degree that's fine. But like I said, we go overboard with it. And it's like everything that we do is based on comparison. And if we don't measure up, then we feel either rejected or cheated or, we fall short. But we are constantly comparing our barometer to someone else's barometer. Again, if we don't measure up to it, then we become failures. God has, like I've said before, God has designed us individually in our own uniqueness, and we have to have the tenacity to bring it out. We have to discover ourselves to define our goals and our heights that we have to attain. But far too often, we become lazy when it comes to our own uniqueness because we look towards the other people as a measure of success instead of our own originality. Yeah, I love rap music, and I'm proud to say that I grew up in an era when I first saw it come to its fruition, when I saw it in its infancy, when I saw it in its genesis. And I grew up in the Bronx, New York, South Bronx, Webster Avenue. Shout out to that area. And like I said, I saw it in its infancy. I saw the originality. And I could have never thought that, and they're celebrating the 50th year anniversary of it. I never thought it would have grown to such heights, but it has. It's a worldwide phenomenon. 50 years in the making. But like I said, I was there. It was right there in my back door, so to speak, in the South Bronx. So I saw it in its original. And what I'm saying is, we must realize that we can't serve as our own standard because sin has contaminated us. Our only legitimate standard is Scripture. I kind of got off course with the rap scenario there, but I kind of lost my train of thought. But I'm back on course now. And furthermore, we have to be content with our boundaries, with the boundaries, so to speak, in which God has placed on us. Because, and that might seem restrictive from saying it like that, but think of it this way: with God, His boundaries far exceed our boundaries. If you see where I'm coming from. In other words, we have to be aligned with Him and stay within His realm and His will for us to go to heights we've never seen before. See, to live in God-given boundaries is freedom. You didn't think of it that way, did you? To live in God-given boundaries is freedom. It maximizes your uniqueness and abilities. So to try to function outside of those boundaries will produce frustration, and it often leads to sin. And the funny thing about comparing ourselves to others is that we often flip it. And what I mean is, we expect that same individual, when it comes to morals, and when I'm talking about comparing ourselves to others, we expect that same individual, when it comes to morals, to be like us, okay? And then when you find out that they're not like you, then you become horribly disappointed. And when you think about it, that's such a waste of time when we're comparing ourselves to others. And I'll leave you with this. David didn't compare his strength to Goliath's. He didn't. He didn't compare his strength to the Goliath's. And you would think, and I know you've all heard the story, you've read the story and so forth. You've seen it in movies and whatnot, seen it in plays and skits, where David is a teenager, small in stature, compared to Goliath, who was basically a giant. And yes, giants did exist. Okay, giants did exist. So you would see the comparison, using that word, but David wasn't afraid. David wasn't afraid, because if you look at that scenario, and even you can put it in today's situations, okay, where you see somebody who's like right here, and then some guy he may be arguing with is about 6'8", 6'10", something like that. All right. And that person would probably automatically start comparing themselves because, oh, that guy is too big and too strong. This is another way to look at comparing. And talking about David, he compared not his strength, but he compared the strength of God, which is infinite. And infinite means no boundaries, no limits. And he compared God's strength to Goliath's strength. Okay? See, that's the difference. We're making comparisons. When we include God in the mix, no matter what it is, when we include God, then those so-called limitations in making comparisons are blown out the water. It's out the door. So if we are to do any comparing, we ought to do it in the will of God. Enough said.